New York City's traditionally been regarded as one of the most liberal places in all of the U.S. Not necessarily true. Newspapers are finally reporting what some experts have been saying for ages, namely that New York's schools are among the most segregated in the country, and that its schools function on two tiers, one for affluent white families who pump private funds into their kids' classrooms, and another for largely minority poor communities, underfunded, underserved, and overcrowded. 43% of Manhattan's public schools have severe space problems, and with the budget crisis hitting New York, like so many other cities in the country, there's little relief in sight. GRITtv went to Donna Nevel, an advocate for fairer schools in New York City, for her take. Listen to her perspective and then get in touch with us by email at grittv@grittv.org. We'd love to hear your experiences and your opinions. Here's Donna.
I think there's a group of mostly upper income, largely white families who have been able to create schools that serve their interests. I think for the majority of our children, mostly children of color, low-income families, children with special needs, English language learners, they are being very poorly served. It's a system where parents, students, community members, and educators have basically been pushed out of any decision-making. It's a serious problem when some schools are allowed to have more money because, for example, they have a largely upper-income community that can afford to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. Often you also need to look behind that to see that they're inequitable admissions policies and that, in fact, they are accepting families precisely because they want families with higher incomes. That's one of the things we found at the center when we documented over 300 stories of parents who were not accepted into our public schools. And these were public schools that didn't require testing to get in, that were supposed to be open to everyone in the community. Parents would go to the schools and be asked what could they contribute, and it was clear that they were asking for monetary contributions. On the Upper West Side of Manhattan, a community that prides itself for its progressive values, a school where if you walk through one half of the classrooms, which is the regular program, it's largely students of color, and then you walk through the other half of the school and you see mostly white children with school classrooms that have many more resources, and those are the gifted and talented programs. Gifted and talented programs have enabled largely white, largely middle, upper income families to have pretty much segregated schools in their communities. And it's been one of the mechanisms by which this two-tiered system of education has been allowed to exist and flourish. I think when you look, for example, what's happening in many of our neighborhoods where neighborhood schools are being shut down, and again, arbitrarily, when the communities themselves are saying, don't shut our schools down, give us the support and resources we need. And then, in many of these instances, charter schools are coming into those same buildings, taking over the space, yet they aren't serving those children from the community and from the neighborhood. And in many cases, they're not serving English language learners or children with special needs. If you want to create enclaves for your community, then you're creating privatization of our public schools, and that's not what we need. We need parents from every background who want to be part of a school system that serves all our children, because if you go to a school that's privileging your child over others, that means it's another child that's being stepped over and is not getting the education they deserve. And no matter how wonderful our own children, we all believe our children are, and we all want our children to have the best education, it can't be at the expense of other children. It will result in a society that is even more unequal and even more unjust than that which we're facing now. And so we have to turn the tide, and we have to do it together. I think that what is heartening in this terrible reality is that there are so many people and communities that have come together to fight for justice in our public education system. What we need to do is reclaim our schools, and the movement that's taking place is really being led by those most affected by the injustices of our system, and for others of us who are committed to equity and justice in our public schools.